Hi, welcome to Cornelia Unravels-A knitting podcast, episode 4. I have realised that in my podcast I haven't been that fantastic at actually introducing myself. I did in the first one, and then I think I have forgotten for every single other one. So, my name is Cornelia. I live in Melbourne, Australia with my husband and our 2 cats and our dog. Our dog is named Watson, and Susie and Jemima are our cats. Watson so far has featured regularly on the podcast, getting up to all sorts of mischief, so we'll see if he features again today. At the moment he's sleeping just behind my makeshift podcast setup, but we'll see if he comes to join us again this week. I apologise if you can hear any noise. We have landscapers at the moment, and they're both working out the front of our house and the back of our house, and I felt like I couldn't win as to where I was going to podcast. There was going to be some noise somewhere, and I also apologise for the croaky throat, stuffy nose kind of vibe I've got going on. I have had a cold this week, but I didn't want to wait any longer to podcast because I have a few finished objects and I have them with me today, but as of tomorrow I won't have them with me anymore. They will be going home with my mum to New Zealand, so I wanted to get a podcast in and show you those finished objects on the podcast. So we'll see how this goes. Hopefully it's not too noisy, hopefully my voice isn't too bad, and I am looking forward to it. If you are coming back to watch me again, I really appreciate it. And if you are new to my channel, and I have lots of people who are new to my channel, which is, I think, a big thank you to Lucy, who is my friend, but is the host of the This Nanny Knits podcast and is at This Nanny Knits on Instagram. She mentioned me in her podcast, and after that I had quite a few people pop over and watch my podcast as well, and I have lots of new subscribers. So welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. It's exciting to have I guess more of an audience than the friends and family members who I know are already watching, and I hope that you enjoy it and that you stick around. So without further ado, we will get into my finished objects. I don't think it would be my podcast if I didn't say, let's get into this, and then I find something else that I have forgotten to talk about. So a couple more things before I talk about my finished objects. Firstly, I thought, I'll wear some knitwear today, and then completely forgot to talk about it in the introduction. So I'm wearing the Le Pouf, I don't know how you say it, Le Pouf cardigan by the woman who runs Hedgehog Fibres. Her name is blanking at the moment. I don't have any notes today. Again, I didn't last week either. I want to say her name is Beatra or something along those lines. Anyway, it is a free pattern though, and she has a sweater version, she has a cardigan version, and she also, I think, has recently released a turtleneck version or one other version of the pattern. So I quite enjoyed knitting it. I basically just grabbed a whole heap of single skeins from my stash and put them together into a fade because it is a marled, I used it as a marled style, so holding the 2 yarns together and dropping 1 strand each time to kind of fade the colours in together. So basically I just grabbed some skeins, single skeins from my stash that I thought would look really nice, and worked out how I could put them together into a semi-fade. I had some issues with yarn, especially with the sleeves. They weren't quite how I wanted them to be, and actually now they're too short. Initially I had knit the sleeves way too long, and I thought, I'll rip back a bit and I will redo the ribbing and I'll make the sleeves shorter, and I went in the other direction and made them too short. But that's okay. I'm not too bothered by it. They're shorter than bracelet length, I would say, but I've still worn it more often than I thought. I wasn't particularly happy with the finished product. Nothing to do with the pattern. I felt like I had chosen one size bigger than I should have done. It's kind of quite slouchy, but I've actually found that that's been a nice kind of cozy thing to wear, and I thought I'll wear it while I'm podcasting today, and I have worn it to work a few times. So it's getting a lot more wear than I thought it was going to. I can't remember what skeins I used. I know that I think most of them were either from Hedgehog Fibres or from Kindred Red. I had quite a few individual skeins from both of those yarn dyers, but I couldn't say which one was which in here, I don't think. Maybe this one is definitely a Kindred Red one. It's not showing up. That's probably a bit better. This lighter coloured one with speckles, and I'm pretty sure the pink underneath it is also from Kindred Red, but I think the rest of them might be Hedgehog Fibres. This was before I knit socks as well, so I had just bought a whole heap of pretty skeins of yarn just because I liked them without ever any real plans to use them for anything. So it's nice that they got used in a project, and actually a project that I am wearing relatively regularly. So that was the first thing, and I suppose it is a finished object. The second thing I forgot to mention is that I am on Instagram at Cornelia_crafty_escapades, and I am on Ravelry at NowCorneliaKnits. Ravelry I basically just use to buy patterns and sometimes use for the odd knit along, and Instagram I'm not the best at posting, but you can follow me there anyway if you'd like to get the odd post here and there if you want to see the bits and pieces that I get up to knitting wise or outside of knitting wise. So finished objects. Let's actually get into the finished objects now. So in my previous podcast I said these are definitely going to be a finished object, and I have fulfilled that promise only just. I think I finished them about 2 hours ago because they were put off a little bit, and I'll explain why in a second, but they ended up not quite being the priority to finish. But once I had finished the other things that became slightly more of a priority, I decided to go back and get these done. So this is my first finished object. These are the Lucille Socks by Marie-Pierre Lassard. So I've talked about these quite often now. They are for my mum, and they are for cycling. She likes nice warm socks for cycling, and all of her cycling socks are either ones that I have knit her or are kind of fun, quirky ones. So I guess that's kind of her new trademark, is fun socks for cycling. That could be a nice tagline, fun socks for cycling. So I had the issue with one of these socks where, I'm not even sure which one now, I'm pretty sure it was this one, where I had knit the toe, I started the toe decreases too soon, and I then thought that I had knit the wrong toe. Funny story, I don't know that I did knit the wrong toe, because this toe is the new toe that I've just put in to fix the fact that the socks were too small, and this was the first toe, and I don't think they're the same number of decreases, and I had the pattern out for both of them, and I don't know what I've done, but it doesn't matter. They fit mum. That's the main thing. One sock is now not too small, whereas before when I had finished the foot, one sock was definitely too small. And then they have this really nice ruffle. I really love this ruffle. It's really cool. It's a bit fiddly when it comes to creating it, I suppose, but I kind of did half in one go, and then they got set aside for a while, and then I did the other half in another go, and it wasn't too bad to finish them off that way. So they're all done. They are knit in Hedgehog Fibres twist sock, which is a BFL base and has quite a high twist. It's not necessarily my favorite base to knit with, but I do quite like the finished product, and they do feel quite nice and sturdy. So I I think they'll serve Mum very well, and she is definitely a worthy recipient of my socks. She has been staying here for quite some weeks now. I think we're probably somewhere between 8 and 10 weeks where she's been staying with us, and I think she's been wearing, I've knit her 3 pairs of socks so far, I think, and she's worn 1 pair of socks, of my socks, that I've knit her almost every single day that she has been here. So I know that they are well loved, and there will definitely be more socks for Mum being cast on soon, which I will talk about in one of my later segments, because that's going to be a planned cast on that I've got. So it's really nice to have these finished. I really like them. They're really cute, and I did enjoy knitting them. I would definitely recommend this pattern. She's going to wear them like this. I keep showing them like this because I know that's how she's going to knit them, and kind of how I've woven the ends in on the inside. But the pattern actually gives you 2 options and allows you to, or suggests wearing them like this as an alternative. So I think this is really cute. The longer leg is definitely Mum's style, but this is definitely my style. I really love them like this. So, spoiler alert, these socks are going to be on the horizon for me, but my plan will be to fold down the cuff so that they're kind of like, I don't know, little roughly 80s sports socks. But yes, I really love them. So these are the Lucille Socks by Marie-Pierre Lassard, and I am very glad that they are finally in my finished objects pile. And as Mum is going back to New Zealand tomorrow, these are going home with her. So hopefully I've said everything about these socks. My next 2 finished objects, they ended up becoming the priority. So as Mum has been here for such a long time, she's had people, her friends, looking after her house, checking everything's okay, checking the mail, watering her indoor plants, all of those sorts of bits and pieces. I think watering her garden as well. And I said to Mum, we were kind of talking about her finding a way to thank them, and I said to Mum, oh, well, do you want me to knit them each a hat? So Mum thought that that would be a nice idea. So we decided that I would go ahead and would knit a hat for each of her friends, their husband and wife. So a hat each. And then that kind of became the priority. Mum was kind of not as worried about having the socks finished, but thought it would be nice to have the hats. And I'm kind of considering them a little bit of a thank you from me, because obviously if she didn't have people at her house helping her out, she wouldn't have been able to have stayed here for as long, and it's been nice to have a really long visit from her. So I got stuck in to knitting these hats. I have shown this hat pattern on the podcast before, because I knit myself / Dean, kind of both of us, a hat using this pattern, which is the classic ribbed hat by Purl Soho. So this is one of them. So it just has a folded up cuff. So this is what it looks like, not folded up. Now this yarn is a navy blue, and just the way that it was dyed had a darker patch in it than part of the rest of the skein, and so it's kind of got this striping effect, which in this light is super obvious. It's probably not quite as obvious in natural light. This is a little bit showing things a little bit brighter, but it looks really nice. This is not my thing. I don't really like it when yarn pulls in this way in kind of the spiral effect, but it's not for me. It's for someone else. So I hope that they will like it. I hope that they will appreciate it. This is very much a yarn personal preference for me, not so much I think it looks ugly. So hopefully he doesn't look at it and think, oh, I don't like that hat. But the reason I chose this pattern is because, sorry, I was just looking outside at the landscapers. Little squirrel moment. What was I saying? Yes, I chose this hat pattern because the ribbing texture means that it's nice and stretchy, and hopefully then it means that if they have a bigger head than I do, then it will fit them. And I have knit both of the hats in a DK weight and both of the hats on a 3.25mm needle. Now the pattern calls for a worsted weight yarn and a 3.25mm needle, but what I decided to do was knit a size large just to kind of compensate for the difference in yarn. And these ones have turned out slightly smaller than the hat that I knit, but I actually made a mistake with that one, or not a mistake, it was intentional. I had the wrong needles with me and I just decided to knit the hat anyway. So I actually knit the hat in a worsted weight for me on in a large size on slightly larger needles. So the hat that I did make for myself is actually quite a bit bigger than what is recommended in the pattern. So this is in a DK weight, and the yarn is, I don't know if you'll be able to see the tag, but they are no longer dyeing anyway. Far away. So this is from Knitcraft and Knittery. So they used to be dyeing. They were based in Australia for a while and then had moved to the US. I don't know if it was back to the US, if that was where they were originally from, or if they were originally from here. Anyway, this is so no longer dyeing, and I've had this skein in my stash for a very long time. It is in the Colourway Bilby's Blue. So it's a 100% sustainable Australian merino wool, and it's really nice and soft. It is a really, really nice yarn. So that's hat number 1. And then hat number 2 is the same pattern, but this one has a pom-pom on it. Needs a bit of floofing. Floof the pom-pom. Got to have a floofy pom-pom. So again, this is the exact same pattern. It is knit with the same needles and approximately the same length. This one I was a little bit worried about playing yarn chicken, so I think I might have started the decreases. Sorry, the camera just shook because someone was running somewhere and Watson got excited, so he's just jumped off the bed and he's doing little gruffs at the door. But he was lying on the bed, so he's just shaking my dodgy camera setup. It's a pretty dodgy camera setup. Anyway, back to the hat. So this one is knit in Flock Fibre. She is a Canadian-based dyer. I don't know what colorway it is though, and I don't have the label. This was something that I wound up ages ago, and to be honest, Watson probably ate the label because that's what happens to most of my yarn labels. He eats them. So I don't know what the colorway is, but I do know that it is Flock Fibre. And again, it is in a DK, and it's, I think, 100% superwash merino. This one's a slightly higher twist, has a slightly higher twist than this yarn here. And then I just found this kind of purpley grey, I'd almost say it's like a lilac-y grey pom-pom for the top, and it's one of those, and this is cool, I haven't used these pom-poms before, where you can, watch me do this for the first time, there we go, where you can snap it off, so you can change out the pom-pom, you can take it off if you need to wash the hat, so that's really cool. I haven't used one of these pom-poms before. The ones I usually use, you have to tie on. So yes, these are my other 2 finished objects. So they are also going to go home with Mum tomorrow. So she has got 3 knitted items from me that she can take home, 1 for her and 2 for her friend. So I hope they fit, and I hope they appreciate, I'm sure they will appreciate them, there's no question about that, but I hope they fit. I hope they don't find the yarn scratchy. You know, I know that wool is a very preferential thing. Mum loves knitting, but not even Mum really likes wearing a lot of wool. She mostly makes baby things, and if she's making something for herself, she has to be quite picky as to what it is. I don't need to be quite as picky as she does, but yeah, I really hope that they are something that is wearable for them, I guess. I know they'll be appreciated, but I hope that it's something that they will get to wear. So those are my 3 finished objects. It's been the week of 1x1 ribbing, or the 2 weeks almost, I would say, of 1x1 ribbing, where that seems to be what I have exclusively knit, aside from re-knitting the toe on those socks. Those 2 hats were all completely 1x1 ribbing, and I don't know if I mentioned, I think I did, but it's the classic ribbed hat. I know that I said that. I don't know if I said it was by Purl Soho. But the other thing is that this is a free pattern on their website. So if you want to knit these, it's just a free pattern. You can just Google classic ribbed hat, Purl Soho, and it will come up. And it comes in baby to adult large sizes. So it comes in a really wide range of sizes. So these are 1x1 rib. And then this work in progress is also 1x1 rib. So doesn't look like too much yet. It is currently it's going to continue to be as well. But this is where I am currently. And this is the Dear Duomo by Suenghee Knits. I may have pronounced that incorrectly. And if anyone knows the correct pronunciation, I would love for you to comment below and let me know. But yes, this is the Dear Duomo. So I've just worked the ribbing at the bottom. It's obviously a bottom-up sweater, and it is, I've got about one, sorry, I don't know what I was saying. I have 1 centimetre more of ribbing to go before I start the body. So I really am enjoying it so far, actually. I know that it so far is just the ribbing, but I'm really excited by my yarn choice, and that's giving me a lot of interest and joy as it works up. The cast on proved to be a little bit challenging and frustrating, not because it was difficult, but because I apparently couldn't count what I was doing. And I was having issues with reading the cast on, so if I stopped and put it down, I had issues working out if I was casting on a knit stitch or a purl stitch. So in the end, Mum and I cast on about half each. I was getting frustrated with it, and she said, here, I can finish it for you. Sorry if there was a weird cut there. I just needed to cough. And now my eyes are watering. So the interesting thing about this, and something that I found a little bit difficult, which may just be my own lack of knowledge, usually if I alternate skeins in the round, I helical knit, but because it was ribbing, I didn't want to do that. So I've just been carrying the yarn up row by row, and it's not the tidiest. I think it's getting a little bit better. I had to shift slightly where I was carrying the yarn up. It was, I don't know, you can see, it does look very messy. So you can see that this little, it's a faux seam, looks a little bit messy, and that's where I was carrying the yarn up. I've shifted it over a couple of stitches, so now it's sitting in the ribbing, and now it's looking a lot better than it was before. But I don't think I'm so bothered with it that I'm going to go back and fix it. It's definitely significantly messier than the other side, but I think I'm just going to leave it as it is and hope that maybe some of it will kind of block out a little bit. At least some things might relax a little bit with blocking, and I might be able to kind of fix it up that way. But I don't think it'll be too noticeable, and I don't think it's going to bother me too much that doesn't look quite as tidy as I would like. And I mean, it's down on the side of the bottom of it anyway, so I don't think it's going to be the most noticeable thing ever. If it was right in the front, in the middle, then maybe I'd be going back and fixing it, but because it's not, I'm just going to leave it as it is and then see how the rest of it goes. I am using a super cute, it's so cute, a little moo cow. Whoop. A little cow stitch marker. It's the cutest thing. So the stitch marker is from Lock and Lou, who you can find on Instagram. So I got a cow, a bunny rabbit, and I want to say a pig stitch marker from them, and they're just adorable. I've recently tried to make some polymer clay bits and pieces, and I don't know if these are made, I think these are made out of polymer clay, but I don't know how people make things that are these tiny, that are these tiny. I don't know how people make things that are this tiny and so detailed. It's just so cute. I love it so much. So I was very excited to put my little cow stitch marker on this. And the yarn I am using is actually an acquisition. In my last podcast, if you've watched it, I mentioned that I would save an acquisition for my next podcast because it was getting dark. Sorry. And it wasn't really showing, the colours of the yarn that I was showing weren't quite accurate because of the lighting by the time I had finished the podcast. So I decided to leave my acquisitions, this particular acquisition, until this podcast. But I'm going to toot my own horn and say that it's pretty great of me that I've already cast it on. Sorry, if there was another weird cut, all of this talking is making me cough. I need to go get some water when I have finished talking about this whip. So I was tooting my own horn and saying that it was pretty great of me that I had already cast this yarn on not long after I had bought it. So I have another skein here. I don't have the ball bands though, because I rewound. I actually laid out all of the skeins unwound to try and work out what order I was going to knit them in, because just of the variation between the skeins, I wanted to be careful that some of the ones that had some slightly brighter patches weren't exclusively like right across the middle or right across the chest of the sweater and make it really obvious. So anyway, I'll get to the point. This yarn, this is the acquisition, but also the yarn that I'm using for this, for the Dear Duomo, is Qing Fibre, who is based in the UK, and this is in their Dashing DK base, which I think is a newer base from them, and it's 100% South American, South African. Anyway, it is an extra fine superwash merino wool. Maybe I'm completely wrong as to where it is, but it is so soft. Like, it feels like it has cashmere in it. It is so soft. It is so nice to knit with. I do think it will pill a little bit, but that's just going to be worth it because I'm totally in love with how soft it is, and it's a really fun colour. When I knit it in the evening, it reads quite pastel and quite neutral, but then in the daytime, the kind of neon sections, which you might be able to see there, that's quite a good shot. The kind of neon-y sections really are quite neon, so it's just a really interesting colorway. I'm really enjoying knitting it up. It's really fun to see how the colors are kind of looking together and how it looks in the different light. So that's where it's at. This is the Dear Duomo, and that is my only work in progress. My other works in progress quickly turned into finished objects. So the other things that I was working on were the two hats, and you didn't see them as a work in progress. They just got cast on and then were finished. So the only other thing I've been working on outside of that is this. So that's my only work in progress. Alright, so my next segment is the stash feature and knitting plans. If you can hear a thumping sound, I'm really sorry. They're compacting something next to the new letterbox. I don't really know what they're doing. They're doing a thing with the new letterbox. So I'm quite excited about this segment today. What I did was I have got out all of my sock works in progress. Sorry, I'm looking over here because this is where my pile of stuff is today. The sock whips that I have, none of them have been touched in... Yeah, none of them have really been touched in a while. My only socks have been the ones for Mum. But I wanted to talk about this because Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady, so she's the Crazy Sock Lady on Instagram and on YouTube. Each year she hosts something called Summer Sock Camp, which is basically, it's just a knit along. It's a really long knit along. And I thought that's a good reason to kind of get into some more sock knitting. I've got lots of sock skeins in my stash and I'm going to show you some of them soon. And I thought it would be just kind of a good motivator to use some of them up. So what I thought I'd do though first, now that I've finished kind of the knitting that had a deadline, was that I wanted to get out my sock works in progress and see where they are and show you guys as a bit of accountability to try and get some of those socks maybe not necessarily finished but worked on before Summer Sock Camp starts, which is in about a week, so I'm not going to make too much progress in that time, but also just to kind of keep some momentum on them because I'd really like to cast on some new ones. I am mindful of the fact that I don't want to burn myself out on the socks before Summer Sock Camp even starts, but now that I've finished Mum's pair, I am kind of motivated to there is at least one pair that I have shown you before that I really think is doable to finish in the next week. Sorry, I'm just going to get a sip of water. So I'm going to show you all of my sock works in progress and where they're at and even how messy they are in a project bag. I haven't filtered this or made this nice and tidy and neat for you. I just grabbed the project bags and I think half of them are on waste yarn, not even on needles. And I'll show you the sock whips and then I will talk about some sock knitting plans that I've got with yarn that I have in my stash. So we're starting with this bag here. It is covered in cat fur. Jemima is a white cat. I have no idea who this is from. Actually, I have no idea, but it's on the tag. Slipped Stitch Studios. So this is Tinkerbell. This was given to me in a swap, which is why I thought I had no idea where it was from. And in here, these ones are on a barber cord. These ones here, actually, these ones I should be able to finish before Summer Sock Camp starts as well, because there's not really, I mean, there's a lot to do, but they're DK weight socks. So these ones are the Thicksgiving socks by Summer Lee Designs. I dyed the pink yarn and then I'm holding it double for the leg and the foot, and then I'm holding it single with another skein of leftover, which I know is by Ren and Ollie, but I don't know the colourway name. I'm holding it together for the cuff and the heel and the toe. Now the reason that I am doing that is because instead of just using the pink all the way through, is because I don't remember what yarn base I purchased when I purchased yarn to dye quite some time ago. And I don't know if it was 100% superwash merino or if it was a merino nylon blend. So I just thought in order to give them a little bit more integrity for the cuff, for the toe and the heel at least, I would hold it double with a yarn that definitely had nylon in it, and then I decided to do the cuff in the same. So that's that pair. This is all I've got, but I feel like that could be doable because I know that DK weight socks knit up really quickly. So that's my first one, sock whip count 1. Sock whip number 2, I'll grab the ones in this bag, which is by Mountain State Stitches, and these are the ones that I've shown you before. So this one has a finished sock. Just put it up there. And I have started the gusset decreases just. I think I've done like one decrease. I've started the gusset decreases on the second sock. So once I get through those decreases, it's not going to take me very long to finish these either. So this is the pair that I definitely think that I can get finished. So even if I can finish this pair and the DK weight pair before the end of the month, that would be really good. And then, so that's two sock whips. Then my third one is this one. This is in a little grey girl UK. The little grey girl, she's based in the UK bag, and it's this really fun triangle shape. I really like this one. I think it's fun to have a different shaped bag, and it's got cute cats on it. I do like cute cats. So this is the ball. Now the name of the dyer and the colourway escapes me. Something to do with ice cream, cookie dough, vanilla, something to do with that, gingerbread. Anyway, but she is no longer dyeing yarn anyway. She's based in Australia, but she's no longer dyeing yarn, and this is a stellina base. So I'm knitting these ones. Now, this is interesting. I'll tell a story about these in a second. So they're the Northern, I'm pretty sure that's called the Northern Lights socks, by Northwoods Knits. Maybe that's wrong. Nope, not by Northwoods Knits. I'll put it down below. I can't remember the designer of the pattern. But this is funny because it's an indication of how far I have come with sock knitting. I was knitting these on 9-inch circulars, and then I got to the heel flap and thought, I can't knit a heel flap on 9-inch circular needles, so what am I going to do? And then decided to change and use DPNs and just keep my other half of my live stitches on hold with the 9-inch circulars. I don't do that now. So I started the sock a very long time ago. I think this might have been my second sock that I ever started, or maybe my third sock. And yeah, I wasn't that comfortable with doing the heel flap with 9-inch circulars, but now that I have knit a few other socks, I am definitely comfortable doing the heel flap on 9-inch circulars. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the second heel flap. This heel flap does seem quite loose compared to how I usually knit one, to the degree that I'm wondering if I've done something wrong. So whether or not I go back and rip it out and just carry on with 9-inch circulars, or if I just finish this one as it is, pick the stitches back up using the 9-inch circulars when I'm finished, and then maybe do the seconds. I don't know. What would you do? Tell me what you think you would do in the comment section. Would you rip back the heel flap? Because it looks giant. I mean, I have knit some too tight heel flaps before. but it looks huge. So I don't know. Tell me what you think you would do. If you would rip back to here, the start of the heel flap, or if you would just keep going. But that's where I'm at with this sock. I do really like the colour. It's really fun yarn and it's quite soft. So that's my third sock work in progress. The only thing with this bag is that DPNs and this bag aren't friends. It's kind of too pointy and they don't the puzzle doesn't work as well to fit the socks inside the bag. So I wouldn't use this bag with, in fact, I'm going to stop fiddling with that and I'll just shove it over to the side and work that out later. I wouldn't recommend putting DPNs in that particular bag. I love the bag, but maybe not a DPN one. So sock whip number 4 isn't much of a whip and won't be one that I will try to finish. Maybe won't even be one that I'll work on. I might save this till later in the year. This is all it is. So it's just the cuff. It is in this yarn, which is by Woolens and Nosh. I want to say it's called the Winter Mint Colourway. I cast these on intending them to be Christmas socks. Then I had taken them to work as a sock to knit on at work. Then I didn't really need to knit on them at work and I was knitting on other things if I knit at work. So basically they haven't had very much love. So they might just stay aside and be socks that I knit closer to Christmas time, since this was kind of a Christmassy colourway. Even though here in Melbourne it's too hot to wear socks at Christmas, it's still it's still fine to knit on socks at that time. So that's my 4th sock whip. So there are 2 more. So 6 sock whips. The 6th one is Mum's just coming home. And Watson is barking. But now he's realised who it is. And now his tail is waggling at 1,000 miles a minute. And now he's jumped off the bed. And now she's going to come in the door. He's very cute and he's very excited. And then he ran away. I'm recording my podcast, Mum. Okay. So, what did I say I was up to? 5th sock whip is this one here. Now, this is by Northwoods Fibres, Northwoods Knits. Although I can't remember the name of the sock. I'm not winning with the names, but they'll be here. Now everyone on the podcast knows that there's no COVID. So these are also on waste yarn. I took the needles off to knit other socks. This is knit using a Sorello Christmas yarn. It doesn't have any nylon in it, so they wouldn't be socks that I would wear. Sorry, Watson just got back onto the bed. Particularly frequently. And these socks were actually a toe up sock, and I am knitting them cuff down. Because, again, they were a sock that I started earlier on when I was learning to knit socks. And I didn't really feel like, well, basically I was too lazy to learn how to cast on toe up. So it was somehow easier in my brain to work out how to just reverse the pattern instead. I don't know if that's the case. I've used the shadow wrap heel. So this single sock should definitely be finished by next week. If I sat down and actually worked on it, I could probably finish it tonight because it just has a few more stripes to go and then the toe. So for the single sock, there's not a lot left to do, but I do only have this sock. And then my very last sock whip, so then that's going to make it 6 altogether, also doesn't have much, and this is the messy bag. Let's see if I can show you. It's just yarn bath. Look at it. What a disaster. So the reason why that's a disaster is because these aren't even on needles or waste yarn, but I think they're really cute and I want to cast them on again. I made a mistake and with the slip stitches in the pattern, and just decided to rip it all the way out. I'm not quite sure why, because I think if I really tried I could have fixed it or just undone a few rows instead of being a bit rash and ripping it all out. But I do have these moments, so I think I will recast these on. I'll pop the name of them down here because this one's a huge mind blank. But what I think I might do is knit them as kind of semi-shorty socks. They'll be longer than shorty socks, but I don't think I want to knit them with the long leg. I think what I might do is either keep it as a 20 round cuff or maybe do 15 rounds and then do the pattern and then go into the heel, and then the pattern happens again just before the toe. So I think that might mean that they'll get more wear from me anyway. The yarn is, the grey is skein yarn, and then the minis are leftovers from a pair of socks that I knit for Mum, and they're from Half Baked hand dyed. So both of those are Australian yarn dyers, skein yarn and Half Baked hand dyed. Half Baked hand dyed usually does self-striping yarn, but she sometimes sells mini skeins too, and both of these are really soft yarns as well, so I'm not sure where they get their bare yarn from, but it's really soft, really soft. I know that this one's an 85-15 base, 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon. The mini skeins though, I'm not sure. Definitely have a nylon content, but I'm not sure what ratio is merino and what ratio is nylon. So that's 6 sock whips that I have. I'm not going to finish 6 socks before summer sock camp because I think I would definitely burn myself out on knitting socks before I even started, and I don't know that that's realistic. So what I would like to do is at least finish the single sock in here with the Sorella yarn, finish the DK pair, and finish the, I didn't say what name they were, I don't think I did, but these ones are the Spring Rain socks, so definitely finish the second sock of this, and then maybe at least work out what to do with this sock and fix this sock. So kind of get things back into a place where I can just pick them up and work on them instead of knowing that I'm leaving them alone because I can't be bothered working out how to fix it. I've got a few projects at the moment that need to be fixed. I've got some of the sweaters that I've shown on the podcast. They need to be fixed as well. So I think I might need to sit down one day, maybe this weekend, and just go through all of the projects that I have and get them back to a place where I'm happy to just pick them up and work on them without kind of having to think about it. So I thought this was going to be a shorter podcast. It's totally not. I am really waffling on about a lot of things. I'm not being succinct in any way, shape or form. But we'll just carry on with that tradition, and I hope it's not too much longer than an hour. So now that you've seen my 6 whips, that's a bit of accountability. Feel free to comment in 2 weeks' time when I haven't touched them and say, hey Cornelia, where are all those sock whips you said that you were going to finish? Because it's entirely possible that that will happen. And I won't begrudge you if you keep me accountable and say to me, hey, where'd they go? You said that you were going to work on them. Show them to me, please. But I'll just pick a couple of skeins. I had more that I was going to talk about, but in the interest of not waffling on too much longer, I won't talk about all of them. But my kind of, I guess, stash feature, future cast-ons, a couple of these skeins you have seen before. Skeins you have seen before. But I'm going to show them again and talk about what their plans are, because these are the things that I would like to knit on during summer sock camp. So the first one I'll show you is this one, which I have shown as an acquisition in my last podcast. So this is yarn from Ren and Ollie, and it is called Pond. The colour is called Pond, and it is an 85-15 base. And this is going to be Mum's next pair of socks. I can't remember the name of the pattern. I will tell you when it is a work in progress. But she has already picked a pattern and she has chosen this yarn. So this will be my next pair of socks for Mum. Another sock plan that I have is with this yarn, which is by Sunday Fibre Co. And the main colour is called Cream Tangerine, and the mini skein is called Rosie. You might be able to hear the Kanga outside, which is the little digger. He's picking up some dirt. So this sock set is going to be for a pair of socks for me, and I'm going to make these ones. Sorry, my husband just turned on the hallway light and now it's gotten brighter. So I'm going to knit these socks out of this colourway. So I will obviously do the stripes in the mini skein, and then the socks, the main body of the socks in the main skein. So I'm really excited about that. I think these are going to be really pretty, and I'll aim to kind of make them so that they're folded down. The other, I just really like these socks, just because I think they're really cute. So the other, I would like maybe, get your words right, Cornelia. Funny story, one of the kids, sorry, the light just turned off again. One of the kids in my class at school calls it Mrs. Scott language, and she'll say to me, Mrs. Scott language, when I muddle up my words, because I do it often. I do it in the classroom all the time, and so I'll muddle up my words, or I'll forget what I'm saying, and then she'll just yell out, Mrs. Scott language. So there was a bit of Mrs. Scott language for you, me forgetting what I was saying and losing train of thought and muddling things up. So anyway, I would like to knit 2 pairs of those socks. We'll see after my second pair if I really feel like doing a third. But I've shown this in my stash feature before. It's from Full Moon Fibres, and this is only a 50-gram skein though, so I would have to knit them shorter, or I would have to maybe use one of the minis for the heels and toe, and the other mini for the stripes, to kind of get a little bit more yarn available to me from the 50-gram skein, because I've weighed these socks and they were 70 grams. So obviously I'm not going to get a full pair of these out of 50 grams. So if I want to knit this pair of socks out of this skein, I'm just going to have to kind of do a little bit of working out with how I can not play yarn chicken too severely. The other sock plan I have is this one, which I've also spoken about, which is just some self-striping socks, and I want to use again the shortbread heel and toe pattern. I really liked that, and they were for a pair of socks for my husband, so I'd really like to try it for myself. So that's another one. And then let's go for one more plan. I've got more in the pile, but I'm not going to talk about them all. This one is also by Full Moon Fibres, is another 50-gram skein with 2 mini skeins, and this is Woven Sunset is the main skein, and Charcoal and Mint to Be are the 2 mini skeins. And I think I actually just watched a podcast, I think it was Hannah G Knits, and she had knit the Totally Rad Ribbed Socks by Summer Lee Designs, and I actually thought that these might be fun as the Totally Rad Ribbed Socks, so using this as the main colour and using these 2 as the stripes. And she had knit the legs slightly shorter, so I think if I did that and did something similar to what she had done with the pattern, then I would probably be able to manage getting the Pier out of the 50-gram skein and using these for the stripes. So I'd like to use this skein as well. I said one more, but I'm going to do one more because it's quick. I'm just going to show you this one quickly. This is just a self-striping skein, so I'd probably do something similar as I would with this. Just knit it and put in the shortbread, afterthought heel and toe. But I just really love this yarn. I kind of looked at it on the website so many times before I finally purchased it, and then I finally purchased it and it's still just still just sitting on the shelf. Sorry for the almost swear word. That was not what I intended. That's embarrassing. So this is the Cozy Knitter and in her Bliss base, and the colourway is Hygge. I believe that's how that's said. Oh, yeah. Lots of sock whips and lots of sock plans. So I've decided that the problem with becoming more comfortable filming this podcast is that I am waffling way more. I think I was so nervous in the first podcast that I kind of, got through things really quickly, or maybe I edited out a lot of stuff and now I'm like, hey, you guys can just see me as I am. Because this is definitely not a shorter podcast by any means. But my next couple of things won't take very long at all. So, other knits and pieces. Sometimes I have a big waffle about lots of things. I've just had my waffles earlier on. If only I'd eaten real waffles instead of just talking too much. There I go again. In my other knits and pieces segment, which I am about to do, so welcome to other knits and pieces, I just wanted to talk to you about some more yarn dyeing that I have been doing. So I mentioned in my last podcast that essentially Mum has challenged me to dye her a advent calendar or a countdown calendar this year. So last time I showed you these two skeins, but these ones have been added. They don't have colorway names or anything. I'm just having a play, and some things are turning out how I want them to and some things aren't. So I just thought I'd show them to you. So this one here is kind of a peachy color, and this one here uses the dye color called pistachio, and it's just dyed with that color. So I haven't kind of played with that too much in regards to combining colors or anything. I did get new dye, so a lot of these tonal ones are just me kind of having a play with the dye color and seeing what color it actually is. So this one here is the yellow one, and the dye is called Duckling, and then this one here is kind of a bluey grey, and then this one here is again just using the dye color. It's just a pink. It's called Ballerina Pink. I actually expected it to be lighter than what it is. It's quite bright. These two though were a little bit more of an experiment. So this one was first dyed with a kind of tan light browny color, and then once that dye had been soaked up, I dyed it again with a kind of mossy color. So it's kind of turned into this, well, Mum described it as calf poo green. So calf poo green color. Maybe that's the name of it. Calf poo. But despite what it apparently looks like, it is quite a lovely color. And then the last one I have is this one here. So this was dyed with the same pink as this one, and then I just had a play with some yellow and greens and tried to speckle it, but then it didn't really speckle so much as just soak up the other colors. But this one's actually turned out to be one of my favourite ones that I ended up dyeing. So I'd be interested to see what this one would look like on a full skein, or trying to do something similar on a full skein instead of in a mini skein. I feel like I'm saying a lot today, I'm sorry. So that's really the only other thing that I've been working on, and I don't have any big knitting thoughts. So I will jump straight into my acquisitions, which is going to be super short. I only have one thing to share because I've already talked about this yarn here, and then live chat. So if you have stuck around this far, if you are still with my waffling, I very much appreciate it. If you do not want to see my single yarn purchase that I have, actually there's two, I lied. I've got a yarn purchase and a book purchase. Then thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time, hopefully. But if you want to see that, I will jump into acquisitions, and then I'll do a quick live chat as well. Alright, so I just have, aside from this, one yarn acquisition, which is also from Qing Fibre and is in her super soft sock base. And this is the Mochi colourway. So it's like a peachy yellowy colour, and then it's got brown speckles in it. So this will eventually turn into probably just a pair of socks, I think. That'll be a very luxurious pair of socks because it is a very very soft base, because it is merino, cashmere and nylon. So this is a really nice base. But yes, I think it will just be some luxurious socks. And my other acquisition is a book. So I have long admired patterns from this book, and I'd never actually seen the book in a yarn store. I had considered buying the digital version of the book actually, because I quite like the soiree, which is one of the sweater patterns in here. But I'd kind of held off because I don't know, I like having the physical copy. I like being able to flick through it before I buy it. But Mum and I went and visited Unwind Craft Cafe, which is here in Melbourne in Keilor East. If you are in Melbourne and you haven't visited Unwind Craft Cafe, then please go and see them. They are very lovely people, and they have a fun selection of yarn, lots and lots of different things, hand-dyed yarn, commercial yarn, and they do classes and things as well. So we went and paid a visit to them. They were a yarn store I hadn't been to yet, and so I was excited to go and see them, which I guess is heading into live chat, some yarn store visits. But anyway, they had this book on the shelf, and so I snapped it up very swiftly. One of the things that I really want to knit, I do really like the soiree, but then I also have seen, the soiree is this one here. I don't know if you can see that. But I also really like, there's a pair of socks in here called Emily's Favourite Socks, and I'm excited to knit those, and I think I'll be having a play around with, it's called Favourite Sock Variations, and so there's a few different variations that she suggests for kind of her favourite sock recipe, and I'm really excited actually to try out some of those. So I guess that kind of leads back into my summer sock camp chat that I had before. So that's my second acquisition. It's a really nice book, and I would recommend it, even if you can only buy the digital copy. But if you're like me, it would be worth kind of seeking it out and being able to have a flick through and look at all the pictures and look at all the pages and things before you make that decision. So nice and short acquisitions. We will head into live chat. So live chat, like I just mentioned, Mum and I have been and visited a couple of yarn stores here in Melbourne that I had never been to before. So Unwind Craft Cafe was one of them, and then Fibersmith was the other one. So I think that Unwind Craft Cafe was more my style. Fibersmith is also really lovely, but maybe not. They have really lovely yarn, don't get me wrong, but I think just in the other store I wanted to spend more time browsing through all of the different types of yarns they had and kind of dreaming up what can be knit with them. Whereas I think Fibersmith I would shop at more if I had a particular purpose and I was looking for tonal yarn, as opposed to kind of browsing through and taking my time and being leisurely. But they have some really, really nice tonal colorways in particular that are dyed in-house. So that was really nice to go and visit some different yarn stores and kind of get to know what else is around Melbourne. I'm a kind of a creature of habit, and when I find a place that I like, I kind of stick to it, and it kind of forms into the routine. So Maker is usually the store that I visit, and it kind of fits in with kind of brunch on Saturday morning. There's a few cafes that we really like close to there, and then I dragged Dean to the yarn shop and then go home sort of thing. So it was nice to kind of broaden my horizons a little bit. Last weekend we went to I'll start the story back a bit further. When my husband and I went away to Port Fairy, which I mentioned in our last podcast, Mum went and cycled some of the O'Keefe Rail Trail, which runs between a town called Heathcote, which is north of us, and Bendigo, which is a city north west of us. Just had to get my directions right. And so there's a rail trail essentially that runs between those two places, and Mum biked 40 k's of it in one direction, 40 k's back, so she did 80 k's altogether, but hadn't completed the entire thing. And that was kind of one thing that she wanted to do before she left, was cycle the other part of it and do it with Dean and I instead of by herself. So what we did was we drove to one of the places where you can jump onto the rail trail, and we cycled to Bendigo, and then we cycled back and we had lunch there, and then we cycled back to the car. So that was a 30-kilometre all up bike ride, which was my longest bike ride so far. So that was really cool to be able to do that. It was quite fun. Going there was quite difficult. It was semi-uphill, not huge hills, but just like a slight slope the entire way. Whereas on the way back, you were doing those slight slopes in reverse. So it was quite speedy coming back, and that was really fun to get out and about and do that. But aside from that, it's been just work and knitting rib tats, and today getting ready for Mum to leave tomorrow, which is a bit sad, but had to happen eventually. She's got her 2 cats that she's got to go home to. So yeah, that's life at the moment. So again, thank you so much for sticking around. I'm sorry I've been very waffly today. If you have stuck with me to the end, I really appreciate it. If you would like to like this video, that would be amazing. If you would like to subscribe if you haven't already, that would also be amazing. And if you just want to tell me what you've been knitting on in the comments, that would be super cool. Maybe you've got a good pattern idea. Maybe you've got a thought for me about my weird heel flap situation I've got going on here. I would love it if you leave me a comment below. I do need to get a bit better at replying to comments, but I definitely read them all, and it's exciting to get them. So please leave me a comment below. Let me know what you've been up to. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know what I'm going to do about that sock, because I'm not sure. And I will stop talking, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.